It's finally Friday.
It's Friday.
Thank God it's
Welcome to another edition of the Friday Show presented by the Breeders' Cup. I'm Ray Paulick here with Chelsea Hackbarth, our news editor, and Joe Nevills, our bloodstock editor. Well, earlier this week we got news of 200 plus pre-entries for the 14 Breeders' Cup championship races next Friday and Saturday. I don't know where to begin here. A lot of oversubscribed fields, especially on Future Stars Friday with the 2-year-olds. But I guess let me just throw it out there and just say, when you looked at the pre-entries, Chelsea, what stood out the most to you? What's the single thing that just kind of jumped off the entries?
Well, I suppose everyone's going to be excited to watch the Classic, but one of the races that really jumped out to me personally was actually the Breeders' Cup Mile. We've got a full field plus 4 on the extended list. 7 of them are coming in off of wins. Another 5 finished second or third in their last start. You've got 2 European Classic winners in the field. You've got the winner of the race last year, Uni. You've got Starship Jubilee, who's just a rags to riches story that everyone can love, and is 7 years old also. Another filly Beau Recall to take on the boys. 2 more Chad Brown horses. Oh, and then there's some trained by Aidan O'Brien in there too. So it's a pretty tough race to handicap.
Yeah, I'd probably piggyback off that myself. That's the turf races, especially on the Saturday card, are very interesting to me, mostly because of the filly and mare contingent that's going to be there, the North American filly and mare contingent. Last year, the turf filly division was probably the deepest in North America. There were probably 5 or 6 horses that had legitimate claims to an Eclipse Award last year, and a lot of those are back for 2020. You mentioned several of them in the mile: Starship Jubilee, Uni, Beau Recall. Looking at the filly and mare turf, that's going to be a throwdown. We're going to have Lady Prancelot going in there, Rushing Fallen Sister Charlie, who are both very good. And then in the turf sprint, we've got Stormy, who is just tough as nails. Anytime she goes, she throws down. She's going to be tough to beat in that. It's going to be a lot of good races with a lot of fillies doing a lot of big things.
Well, hold on, Joe. Go back to Got Stormy for a second.
Okay.
She's had a little bit of an on and off year. What makes you think she's on now?
Listen, Got Stormy always shows up for the big days, and it's just, she's a horse that you throw out at your own risk. Yes, she does have a tendency to throw a clunker from time to time, and her 2020 hasn't been quite as strong as her 2019, where she beat the boys and did a lot of amazing things, but she's one that I can't count out. The turf sprint is one that is always a wide open field. It all depends on where you break and how you can manage from there. And she's live with a shot as anyone else in there. If you want to back off on Got Stormy, you go right ahead. She's on my ticket.
It all depends on what kind of odds we're going to be getting on her.
Yes, exactly.
Hey, one question I had is, in looking at the pre-entries, the juvenile fillies came up light. Only 8 were pre-entered, and that's been traditionally a race that just doesn't get all the entries. Why is you think that the Baffert filly, Princess Nora, just scared people away, or?
Oh, heck no. It's not the West Coast fillies you got to worry about this year. It's these East Coast fillies.
You really think so?
Especially.
Well, I think if I was going to single anything of the 2 days, I just think that Princess Nora just looks like a monster.
I'm with Ray on that one. Princess Noor has done everything right from the first time she set foot on a track in 2020. This goes even back to when she sold earlier this year at the OBS sale for 7 figures. She's done everything that you would expect $1 million horse to do on the racetrack up to this point, and she's going to be the one to beat in that race. I don't know if it's necessarily enough to have scared off an entire division or most of an entire division, but boy, she's going to be tough to pass.
I don't know. Dale Romans believes in his girl daddy pretty well.
I mean, when Dale believes in one, you got to follow him.
Well, the one race we haven't talked at all about is the Breeders' Cup Classic, and the comparison, say, to the 1998 Classic, which was one that had one of the best fields, I think, of all time. The one that Awesome again won at. I don't know. He beat Silver Charm. Victory Gallop was in that race. Coronado's Quest, Skip Away, Touch Gold, Gentleman, Arch, and Running Stag. Let's not forget Running Stag was in that race too at 104-1, I think. But this year's Classic Field is, you not only get the maybe with the filly in there, but even without her, you get 2/3 of this year's Triple Crown winners. You've got Maximum Security coming back, and then the other two Baffert horses, Improbable and Authentic. It's a really, really deep field this year.
This is one of the most evenly matched Classic fields that I've seen in a very long time. It's the kind of thing, and you might construe that as saying that there are no stars in here, that there's not an American Pharaoh to tower over it, but this is just an evenly matched field in that practically everyone in there, it feels right if they would be a winner. If you put the title Breeders' Cup Classic winner Authentic in front of there, you could do that for any horse down the line and it wouldn't feel weird. And that's what's cool about this race is I think basically anyone that you like, you're going to get a fair price on because there are no plugs in here. There are no, wing and a prayer horses. Everyone in this race is pretty good.
Well, hold on, Joe. I'm going to argue with you again.
Okay.
Now it's Dallas Stewart that I'm looking at here, but what is Title Ready doing in this race?
You can say that for most instances of Dallas Stewart putting a big horse in a big race. I have learned to keep an eye on them at the very least. Normally he does his most damage at Churchill Downs. Seeking the Soul seems like that's where he had his superpowers. Several Triple Crown race, getting on the board and causing some chaos. If Dallas Stewart is going to take a shot somewhere, I'm at least going to pay attention. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win, but I'm going to be afraid to leave him off the bottom of my tickets.
Yeah, I mean, he was third last out in the Fayette behind Mr. Freeze. So you would think maybe he would cut back to the dirt mile with that horse, but apparently we're going 1.25 miles. He's by More Than Ready out of a Monarchos mare. So distance maybe, I don't know. It's Dallas though. And if we're at 100-1 and we hit the board, maybe I'll have an extra cheeseburger in my dinner that day.
There you go. You were talking earlier about believing in when Dale believes in a horse. That's how I feel about Dallas Stewart is when he's backing one, I'm at least going to give it more of a look than if someone else were on the trainer line.
All right. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the foreign contingent and who's in the best position right now to be Horse of the Year.
This November, the stands here won't be filled, but they'll still be shaking. Don't miss the Breeders' Cup World Championships. The whole world will be watching racing's ultimate international event, November 6th and 7th, only on NBC Sports.
Well, the number of overseas pre-entries was the second largest that we've seen in Breeders' Cup history. Chelsea, you were on a call earlier this week with trainers John Goss and Aidan O'Brien. What did you get out of that as far as how the Europeans feel coming over for the Breeders' Cup?
Well, Gosden himself isn't coming, which I believe it's the first one he's missed personally, at least since he's had horses entered. But his staff is coming. He made a point to mention how hard everyone's worked to make it an easy ship over here. The staff has all been tested before they came.
Right.
And the quarantine rules will be a bit stricter this year. In the international stabling, jockeys won't be allowed to go in. They will have to meet their mounts outside the gate if they're going to ride workouts in the morning, which Gosden made a joke about Frankie Dettori training the horses instead of him. So he said it'll be a little harder from outside the gate for Frankie, but he can still do it. I don't think anyone's scared to come over here, especially they missed so much racing earlier this year. And our purses are so big on Breeders' Cup Day that they almost need to make ends meet, I believe, this year.
Well, you're gonna have a busy week next week yourself. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing, not for the Paulick Report, but be on the scene.
Well, I'm going to be switching hats for a helmet and climbing aboard my trusty lead pony and working out of the international shipping area, accompanying the horses to the track on the pony. In 2018, I got to work with Enable. So this year, I'll probably also work with Gosden's 3 that he's sending. Lord North probably being the most prominent among those. Aidan O'Brien's sending, I believe, 10 or so. Magical's probably he likes mogul better for the turf. I like magical better for the turf. So hopefully I'll get to at least get up close and personal with one of those. Though his staff normally rides the pony horses instead of us when they go out to the track. But I'll still get to be pretty up close and personal with some pretty cool horses.
Well, Joe, horse of the year. Who you got? Who's the favorite right now?
So right now I'm punting the football. It all depends on how the Breeders' Cup Classic shakes out. Any conversation we have there is going to be moot until we have a chart and some payouts, because there are several horses that could clinch, if not put themselves in very good position to be horse of the year with a win in the Classic. We're talking about Authentic, Improbable, Maximum Security, Tis the Law, maybe even Tom Stay Tot. If Swiss Skydiver runs in the Classic and wins, you'd certainly have to have that conversation too. So, that's a handful of horses that you'd have to give credence to if they win the Classic. They'd have the inside track. If a longer shot ends up winning, I think it's going to depend on how things shuffle out behind them. Let's say Tis the Law runs a gritty second to, higher power, Global Campaign, someone of that level. I think that would probably be enough to put them over the edge, considering the good campaign he'd run in the past. But we got to run him first, see what happens.
Yeah, I'm curious if you get a strange winner of the Breeders' Cup Classic that will not be a horse of the year candidate, can anybody from a different division sneak in a Jackie's Warrior or something like that if he demolishes the field in the juvenile?
How long has it been since a 2-year-old got horse of the year?
Well, Favorite Trick was horse of the year, and that's going back a while. And I think before that, maybe Secretariat.
Wow. I think it'd be tough for everybody that Joe just mentioned would have to run at the back of the Classic field. Nobody would finish better than 4th, I think, for that to even be a possibility. And then maybe Monomoy Girl would be on top of the 2-year-old division.
But Monomoy Girl is bearing down, and here she comes. Monomoy Girl takes charge at the 8th pole, opens up a length into half. Lady Kate is battling on, but Lady Kate is back into second, and Monomoy Girl does it again. Monomoy Girl just keeps on winning.
Well, the post positions will be drawn on Monday. Between now and then, tune into TVG every morning, 7 to 10 for breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. And breederscup.com on Breeders' Cup days itself, and between now and then, Breeders' Cup Day is going to have a bunch of information on the website. So go there and check that out too. We'll see you all next week.